Hello, everyone. Welcome to Self Love You. So glad that you're here today. I have I'm inspired today to share with you my concept of boundaries. I want to lay it all down, everything that I've figured out about boundaries. Now we're talking from a person. I'm a person who had absolutely no inkling of what a boundary was, going from boundaryless to having firm, flexible, good, solid boundaries that protect me and keep me safe. So I'm going to kind of walk you through the things that I've learned about boundaries in reading every book you can imagine and studying boundaries on the internet, watching videos, PM Melody, just a lot of self-inquiry, a lot of meditation, a lot of journaling, a lot of hit or miss, a lot of trial or error, a lot of interpersonal mistakes that I've made along the way, and a lot of personal growth along the way. So we're going to talk about boundaries. Look at my cute shoes. Oh my goodness, I love them. I almost want to just sit here like this the whole time. Okay, I know, I'm not, your typical self-love you talker, okay? And I never will be because I'm me. But today I'm going to lay it down on boundaries. I want to describe to you and explain to you what boundaries are and why, I wrote all this down while I was sitting in Starbucks, waiting in the Starbucks line. So boundaries, you can go anywhere on Google and look up boundaries. Boundaries are the line between you and another person. We all know that. I'm not going to give you information that you've already heard elsewhere. This is going to be newer stuff, I think, that's just cutting edge because I learned it myself, kind of pulled it together from a lot of different sources. So you do have internal boundaries and external boundaries. I'm going to be talking about external boundaries in terms of relationships, in terms of relating with another person. I'm going to talk about relational boundaries. Okay, a boundary is not only is it physical, where you can sit, where you allow how close you allow people to be. Not only is it physical and who you allow yourself to have sex with and who you allow to touch you. Those are very important. But I'm going to talk about boundaries in a relational sense. In order to have boundaries, you have to not be enmeshed. So let me kind of go back to enmeshment. So I grew up in a family dynamic where enmeshment was the order of the day, which means we were like a clump. We were like a clump and everyone had to think the same way. And there had to be a consensus before you were even allowed to think. There was no individuality. There was no rights to your own thoughts. There was no individuation. There was no differentiation among the individuals of the family dynamic. It was very complex and hard to describe. But let's just say you have a clump of a family where everybody must agree with the person who's controlling the family. And then as me as a person, I would have to convince the ruler, my controller, my handler, I guess you could say, that I was right. And then if I couldn't do that, I had a lot of tension inside that I felt differently from the handler, that I felt differently. That tension is called fear, doubt, guilt, and obligation. Because in these enmeshed family environments, dynamics, you have the fear, guilt, and obligation, the enmeshment. And that is what keeps you in line as an individual. And that's what keeps you from having boundaries. So in my family, there were no boundaries. You were not allowed to say no. You weren't allowed to be your own individual. You were to be what the controller, the big kahuna wanted you to be, or nothing. And you were taught from a very early age that you were nothing. And so you weren't taught, if you weren't taught when you're a child to have boundaries, you're not going to have them as an adult. And in the world as an adult, if you do not have boundaries, you're going to have a very tough time in relationships. First of all, it's kind of like, I liken it to, if you don't have any boundaries, you don't have a self, you don't have any structure to yourself, you're kind of like an amoeba. You're just kind of oozing out all over. You don't know where to go. Don't know who to believe. You're not in touch with your own internal guidance system, with your own intuition. It's kind of like a tornado has gone through your sense of self. And it's kind of like if you see those pictures of like Oklahoma or even Texas, where after a tornado, the bathtub is in someone else's front yard. the tree is over here, the car is upside down over here, and there's no walls on the house. That's what it's like if you have no boundaries and if you grew up in a boundaryless family system. And when you grow up, you don't know where your bathtub is, you don't know where the toilet is, you don't know where the kitchen is, you don't know yourself, and so you're forced to seek out who you are from other people and people please, and you just have no effing clue. Okay? You have no clue. By the way, everybody, you guys, I'm a real estate agent. I'm a broker in Dallas, Texas. So if you're looking for real estate in Dallas, that's like my full-time job. I have a brokerage and it's growing and I want to build a multi-million-dollar institution. So that's what I do for a living. So if you're saying, I know that girl from somewhere, well, I sell real estate in Dallas. So if you're looking for real estate in Dallas, go to Jenna Ryan Realty and give me a call. Other than that, this is my hobby, is sharing what I've learned about boundaries. So let me go back to the topic. Okay. So you have no limits, no fence. You may have some fences in some ways. What I did in order to kind of figure out who I was is I went to the Bible, I went to the church, and became very heavily involved in that and became very rigid in my church, because that was the only boundary I could find. And that was a boundary that was acceptable to the handlers of me. And so I had no individuality. I had no understanding of my own rights. So I had no understanding of my own rights. I had no understanding of my own dignity. I had no assertion to set boundaries, because you learn that right around, your developmental age of, 2 and 3, where you're saying no. Well, I wasn't allowed to say no. So that kind of skipped over my boundaries. And in my whole life, I wasn't allowed to have boundaries or have, opinions of my own. So boundaries are like, to me, yes, they are a fence between you and another person, but it's more like your right. Your right to say no. When you're driving on a street, there are stop signs, there are yellow lights, there are green lights. Each individual is allowed to have their own red light, their own green light, and their own yellow light. And they really are not obligated to tell anyone else why they have these particular street signs, okay? The world and the enmeshment of the world would say, you're required to tell people why you don't want to do something. Whereas a healthy individual is going to understand that you have the right to want to do something or not. Okay, back up. Boundaries begin with your intuition. If you are not in tune with your intuition, there is no way you're going to even know what your boundaries are. The reason I know what my boundaries are is because I know my intuition. How do I know that my intuition is calibrated with truth? That is the question. The reason I know that my intuition is calibrated with truth is because my intuition, the internal me, the higher self, the true self, my authentic self, I'm in touch with that. I'm in touch with my true self, and no one can come against what I believe inside in my heart, what I know to be true, because I've really dug deep and found out who I really am and found out how I really feel. And I've learned through mindfulness techniques and through meditation to really get in tune with my true self in real time. So that's my intuition. You're in touch with your intuition if you're in touch with your feelings. You can't be in touch with your intuition if you don't know your feelings. You have to first feel your feelings, allow yourself to, and I have videos on all of these things. Allow yourself to feel your feelings. Do the work of getting to know your authentic self. Once you get to know your authentic self, then you're in tune with your intuition in real time. Throughout this process, there were times where I would be like in an environment, and afterwards I would go, oh my gosh, why didn't I say this? Why didn't I say this? Why I didn't want to do that? Why did I do that? Whereas today, and it it's continuing to evolve, I am very boom, right then and there. Boundaries are real time. Your intuition will tell you in real time, if you're in tune with who you are, what feels right and what does not feel right. So boundaries are erected, are violated when someone, you erect a boundary when you feel it. So someone says, hey, Jenna, will you do me a favor? And I say, what? And they say, will you do X, Y, Z? And instantly, I know whether I want to do XYZ or not. Okay? I know because my gut, I'm in tune with my intuition. I don't owe anybody a reason. I have the right to say, no, no, thank you. I don't want to do that. No matter what it is, no matter who asks me, I don't care if it's my mother, my brother, my sister, my kids, my dog, my vet. I even have the right to the police people, the policemen. I get to go to jail maybe, but you have a right to have boundaries. You have a right to say no. You have a right to guard your energy, to manage your energy. It doesn't matter the reason. You don't owe anyone a reason why or why not you don't or do want to do a certain thing. So a boundary is, no, I don't want to do that. Not in a rude way. It's just a very firm, a very assertive, no, I don't want to do that. And if they ask you why you don't want to do that, it is totally your discretion if you want to tell them why. A healthy person is not going to say, why don't you want to do that? A healthy person in a healthy relationship is going to say, okay, they don't want to do that. The other person may want to negotiate to get what they want from you. However, they would negotiate from a stance that you have the right to say no, that you have the right not to do what they want you to do. A toxic person, this may be someone who is personality disordered or just hasn't been trained, has no sense of self, and thinks that everybody must be exactly and feel exactly as they do, or else they're a villain, or else they're out of, line. Okay, if you have people like that, then they're going to freak out when you say no. And they're going to take it personally when you say no. And whenever somebody freaks out because you said, I don't want to do X, Y, and I'm talking, just like a simple, hey, do you want to go to the movie? Or, no, will you go to the store for me? No, I can't. I can't go to the store for you. And then, may I ask why? Because it doesn't feel right. Because you don't have to have a reason. You don't have to make up excuses. You don't have to make up lies. If something doesn't feel right in your gut, then hey, what are you going to do? You can't help it if it doesn't feel right in your gut. If you go against your gut, you're going against your truth, and you're becoming something you're not, and you're being fake, and you're not being real. And if somebody wants you to do something against your gut, that person's not a true friend. That person's not somebody that you need to engage with, because you are responsible for the energy that you have in this world, and you only have so much, and you can only do so many things. Now, if you're a selfish person and you never want to do anything, that's another story, but it's still, at the end of the day, you have the right to say no to whomever you need to be able to say no. You need to be able to manage your energy and decide what you want to do and what you don't want to do. You have a right to have a yellow light, a red light, a stop sign. Let's say somebody wants you to hang out with somebody. Okay, let's say someone invites you to dinner with someone that you know is toxic. Well, you have the right to say no. I don't care who is inviting you. I don't care if they're a family member. You have the right to say no. And it's actually your responsibility to take care of yourself and to take care of your energy and to protect yourself and say no and not go. The person who is asking you, if they are a healthy person who is willing to respect your individuality, then they're going to be fine with it. They're going to go, okay, fine, I'm going to go by myself. And then they're not going to give you a guilt trip. They're not going to try to force you to do things you don't want to do. That's really a sign of a toxic person. It's a flag for a toxic person. If someone is trying to get you to do something you don't want to do, and you're in tune with your intuition, then that's a sign of a toxic person, and you really need to look out, because they're going to cause you to go down paths that are out of line with your truth, that are not in line with your authentic self, and will take you off your path, and you'll end up in a dead end. But you've got to follow your intuition. You've got to follow your path. you have the right to say no. You have the right to do what you want to do. You have the right to do what you don't want to do. You don't owe anyone anything. And you want to make sure, okay, now there's going to be people in your life who are toxic. And this is a great indicator of a toxic person. If a toxic person does not respect your boundaries, if they're like, well, you're not on my team. Or why? Why don't you want to? Or may I ask why? I guess it depends on how deep the relationship is. But if this is just kind of like a acquaintance asking you why, it's like none of your damn business. Because I don't want to. I have a heart. I'm a whole person over here, and I surely don't need you to tell me I can't be a whole person, because there is nobody who can do that, because I will walk away from anyone. I don't care if we're related. I don't care who you are. Nobody is going to run over me and bulldoze me. I have my own decisions. I have the right to have my own stop signs. And if you want to be in my life, then you have to respect me. That's called respect, because I have dignity. So your intuition, yes, I already told you that, requires freedom from people pleasing. You cannot be a people pleaser and set boundaries at the same time. You can, and how do you set boundaries? Well, it depends on the person. If it's a healthy person, you should just be able to say, no, I don't feel like doing that. And you may want to kind of give them a little reason, because you want to be sweet. You may say, it doesn't feel right to me. And that should be enough. If that's a healthy person who understands what being a person is all about, they're going to go, boom, okay. And they're going to go find another way to get their needs met. If it's a toxic person, they're going to start guilt-tripping you, tricking you, trying to set up situations to make you do what you don't want to do. That means they're trying to violate your boundaries, because toxic people with narcissism cannot stand boundaries, and they'll do anything to get past your boundaries. If you have someone in your life that regularly violates your boundaries, I've had boundaries violated, like people telling me where to sit, what to say, who to talk to, what I'm saying, whether it's acceptable or not. Just like all this weird stuff, like get the heck out. You also have boundaries against what you will not allow. Like, okay, if somebody's not doing something, you need boundaries that say it's not okay that you're not doing that. Like if you need love in your life, you need someone to be more affectionate towards you, then you have to have a boundary. Can you hear my dog? I have a new puppy. You want to see my new puppy? You have to have a boundary of what you will not allow someone else to do. You can't force them to do things that you want them to do, but you can walk away if they're not giving you what you need. So you can always walk away, and that person can always walk away. If they don't get what they want, you're not doing what they want, they can walk away. Let them walk away. Bye. See you later, because I guarantee in 5 minutes, you're going to get somebody in your life who's going to respect your boundaries. Now, I don't edit my videos, so you're going to have to sit here and see a blank space. I'm going to go grab my puppy. You've got to see this dog. Come get in the video. Okay, this is Sedona. She's my therapy dog. Come on. Come on. She is the cutest dog ever. This is Sedona. Say hi. Say hi. Say hi, everybody. Isn't she the cutest? And she's about to get a brother. He's just right now in his mother's womb. But anyway, I'm Jenna Ryan. I am with Self Love You. I love you guys. Thank you for listening. I hope I taught you something. You're allowed to be a separate person. You're allowed to be your own person. You're allowed to have boundaries, and you're allowed to say what you will and will not tolerate, or what you do and do not want to do. And if anybody thinks otherwise, it's better to be alone by yourself with boundaries than, sacrificing your dignity for someone who doesn't respect your boundaries. Okay, everybody, talk to you next time. Have a great day.